You know, white-tailed deer, they've been vocalizing since the beginning of time. It's nothing that we've created. But management practices across the nation have made this aspect of deer hunting a thrill of a lifetime for many. The Squeezin Bleat and the Brawler are the best 1-2 punch we have ever created. And together, they can be an effective tool during any phase of the rut, any time of the year. First, I'm going to start with the Brawler. Simply put, it is the most technologically advanced grunt call ever produced. Plain and simple, the Brawler, it's built like a buck. To produce the authentic sound of the grunt of the white-tailed buck, we went back to the source. And what I want you to do is just visualize. This is a buck I killed in Missouri during the second muzzleloader season. He was chasing a doe across the field. He got out of sight. Somehow the doe gave him a slip, and I grunted at him, and from 300 yards, he came on a dead run to 50 yards. Incredibly awesome hunt for me, and a great deer as well. But getting to the call, we wanted to build a call, and so we asked ourselves, how is the sound created? Where does it go before we actually hear it? And basically, I was sitting in my office and I'm looking at these big deer in the office and started watching big deer on film. And if you see this big chest area, that's where the sound starts. It starts right here in this big barrel chest. They start down here. They start right in this area. Then the sound travels into his esophagus and up through his neck. That esophagus is a pliable, softer region. It's got some ridges through it, but that sound travels through there, and finally it comes right up to his mouth. And that's a much harder surface, but it's controllable. He can open and close his mouth, obviously. So when we built the Brawler, basically we followed that. As you can see, I took the end here. It's a real big, beefy end, just like that deer's chest, where the sound starts. Again, we trace the sound to where it starts. It comes up through a very pliable, soft surface, looks almost like the esophagus. Thus, we call it the esotube. Comes up to a harder cone shape that is very much mimics that of the deer's mouth. Now, this all combined, again, takes the sound from where it started, up through its natural path, and out to where we finally hear it. To top it all off, inside this call is our ridge reed system. This call will not freeze or stick under any hunting condition. Again, follow the sound. Comes out of a big, deep-chested buck. Comes up through his esophagus and out his mouth. The call, the Brawler, it's built just like the buck. So now that we have our theory, and I believe it's a sound theory because it comes right from the man himself, right here, the source, the big buck, the Brawler is built just like him. It's going to give you the sound, but it will also give you all the versatility you need. Simply put, you can do anything with this call. All right, let's slow down a little bit because I gave sight. You can do anything. All phases of the rut. Doesn't matter. Basically, my theory early on, that early in my home state here in New York, October, there's not a lot of activity yet, but it doesn't mean the deer are not vocal. I like to use soft tending grunts. Generally speaking, those younger bucks are going to come in early and they're going to be starting to chase around a little bit, where the big bucks are going to look at them and go, you don't know what's happening, it's not time yet, just wait. The does are getting ready, but those younger bucks are still popping around trying to find, and they're experiencing this for the very first time in many cases. Now that's with it completely extended. You want to do a real young buck? Compress it down. No more noisy tube. Doesn't make any noise, all silent. Now there's a lot to do out there right now with the aggressive grunts, the bawl or the brawling sound of a buck. And I caution everybody, it depends on what your deer herd looks like and the ratio. In the Midwest, I use it all the time. Down in Texas, they have control of the deer herds and we can use those sounds. My home state of New York, I don't use it that often. Now we're killing some nice 2.5-year-old mature deer up here, but that's what we have to hunt. In the Midwest, you wouldn't shoot some of the deer we do here, but we're getting there. And all across the country, we're all doing the same thing. This call allows you, whether you're hunting Western New York, your home state, where it doesn't have the best, oldest age class of bucks, tone it down. When you get out to the Midwest or you're hunting farms that you know you have some bigger bucks on, don't be afraid to get that aggressive grunt, that sound he's making that he's looking for a fight, or he's telling other bucks to get away. It starts craziness going on when you have the right buck to doe ratio and you give that sound. But the most part, most deer hunters out there, you're going to want to just tending grunts early in the season. And just mix it up. The two calls together are fantastic. Basically, the buck I killed in New York this year is the one time I didn't hunt with a camera. He's a 4.5-year-old buck killed in New York. We'll flip a picture up here for you. But I saw him come out with 4 or 5 does. Got his attention with that. He walked over to a bush and just started ripping it up. Set that down, I went. He whipped his head right around. He walked right in from 100 yards to 8 yards, and I made a great shot. But it was a combination of the two calls. Now, as we get into that second rut, I am a lot more vocal during the second phase of that rut. Does are starting to pop in. They're starting to get ready. I am going to get a lot louder. I'm going to try to cover more ground and be more aggressive, following the intensity of the rut. I have no problem sitting in the stand doing a lot of blind calling. Because most cases, you're not always going to see deer, but he might be walking a circle around you. And if you wait every 10 or 15 minutes, you might have missed your window that he can hear you in. Don't be afraid to make these vocalizations. Deer do it all the time. But in the middle of the rut, I would even take my bleating heat and really get some sound going. Follow it right up by creating that illusion that there is a buck following a doe. It's a little more aggressive than what I do in the early stages of the rut, but basically anytime I see a deer and he's out of range, I am going to use a call to try to call him in. Get his attention, create that illusion that he's tending a doe. The last phase of the rut, you can do pretty much anything. The combination of rattling, grunting, and bleating when the rut is on, there's nothing better. And again, the Brawler will let you do all of those calls and all those sounds any phase of the rut during anywhere you're hunting, anywhere in the country. If you only have smaller bucks and that's what you have to hunt, and you kill the biggest one on your farm, good for you. That's what you have to hunt. But this call will allow you to tone that down. The Brawler, it can do it all.
I think if we get right up this clearing, that wind's kind of on our right cheek going like this. They're either going to be right down in that thicket or over there. Let's just ease up right there. There's a big bottom right there and a big bottom right there. For them to be downwind of us, they're going to be right in this clearing. We're going to be quick, but we can kill them right here. Let's just set up right here. Just got to swirl them. Let's go. I'm almost positive they're going to show up right in here. Let's see what happens. Little buck right here. Right here close. He just stepped out right here in the brush. He's gonna walk right up here to us. There you go. That's good. We've always rattled in. I can't begin to tell you how many bucks we rattle in from this ridge right here. There's a lot of deer right here. I'm gonna go ahead and hit them again. I know there's deer on this ridge. Close. Big buck. Close. That's a shooter. Got him. is a giant buck. Unbelievable. Look at that. I tell you folks, sometimes they walk in, sometimes when you're rattling, they charge in like this one did. Last day of this year, and this is the Ford Ranch at its finest. Not a better way to end it than that right there.
Just to reiterate, following the boss here, following that sound out of his chest, through his esophagus, out through his mouth, the Brawler is built just like it. A big beefy mouth end, the ESO tube that doesn't make any noise, and a hard cone shape. And as I mentioned earlier, it's got the ridge reed system. It will not freeze or stick under any hunting condition. This is not a trick. There's a full glass of water. I take that call. It is completely submerged in water. It'll work. Doesn't matter how much moisture builds up on your call. Whether it's a really quiet, crisp morning and you just need to suck it right down, call can do that. If it's a real windy, loud day and you got to cover some ground, close it down, you can get real loud on the call. Add inflection. As you can see, there's nothing you can't do with the Brawler. Team that up with the Squeezin Bleat, you got a deadly combination. Now here's my dad to tell you a little bit more about the Squeezin Bleat.
Hi folks, I'm Dick Kirby and I'd like to share with you one of my newest inventions. It's a deer call, and I think it's awesome. You know, deer hunting has been around for a long time, and it still remains one of the staple animals that's hunted across the country. Doesn't matter whether from the south, the west, the north, or the east. Any part of the country, whitetails are hunted. We came on the scene back in the 80s with a call that actually took over the deer call market. It was called the Bleatin' Heat. And when you plug the end of the Bleatin' Heat and turn it over, you got a perfect bleat every time. I really liked that call, and a lot of other folks did too, and it was led to the demise of many of large bucks. But I wanted to be able to control it more, and I wanted to be able to do more than just that sound. So I came up with what is now my new invention, the Squeezin Bleat deer call. And when you look at it, you say, oh, I get the idea. You just have to squeeze the bellow. And that's exactly the way it works. You can do a short, soft call. You can elongate it. You can make it louder. You totally control what you do with the call. And there's no movement. You don't have to flip it over. You can hold it in your hand. Now, the other thing that's neat about the call is that you can add personality, inflection into the call. Instead of it being, you can add that inflection, which puts the deer is actually speaking and saying something. Almost pleading. And you're controlling it all with your hand.
Tonight, we're sitting on Dick's clover field, which actually in the clover field, it's a dang animal king food plot up here on Dick's place, but I mean, you can see the dang deer are absolutely tearing these turnips up. They're loving it. Our stand's right here, right on the road. 2 nights ago, or 3 nights ago, that's where Dick had that big 8-point